time what to speak about tonight. And in fact, I've been sick to death the last few days. Here's the deal. I just took 2 groups out to the jungle, and those 2 groups had a lot of ceremony, okay? And those 2 groups puked up a lot of shit that they had accumulated in their lives. And it was wonderful they did that. Now, I'm just an assistant. I'm nobody's frickin' guru. But, as a good assistant, I have to pick up the shit. Which means, if I fuck up, shit lands on me. And I pray to God every time, whatever goes wrong in the jungle, whatever snake bite, whatever spider bite, whatever exploded intestine, whatever broken ankle, don't let it happen to my group. Let it happen to me. Because if my group goes home, some American doctor's going to cut off their stinking leg. If it happens to me, I've got people who will cure me here. If you saw my legs 2 days ago, you would have cut off my legs. I had to take 4 shots of difloxacillin to stave off the staph infection. It was really bad, and they're sort of nasty now, but it was really bad. Tonight, I just got a few random thoughts, okay? Let me sit down for a second. I'll probably stand up in a minute because I'm going to get excited, okay? Because I'm really tired of listening like and falling asleep. I want to be awake. Here's the deal. Do you guys have any idea what culture you're dealing with? When you deal with ayahuasca, and most of you are now initiated, and some of you have been initiated for years, with ayahuasca, with San Pedro, with Ahosache, whatever you are initiated with, do you have any idea what you're dealing with? And it's basic. Here's the deal. In this culture, this is not acceptable. This is a command. You only do that to a slave. This is how you call people. You want a taxi? When you have a moment. You want to call a friend across the street? Joey! You want to know what kind of rains there are? How many of you know how many kinds of rains there are here in Iquitos? There are at least 6 kinds of rain here. Everybody who lives here knows what the rains are, and almost none of us gringos know what the hell the rains are. When it drips, 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 drips for 2 days, this is the context in which ayahuasca exists. It's why it's important. Because if you don't know this, you don't know anything, and it's important that you do know something. When it drips and drips for 2 days, it's called warme juvia. What does that mean? Bitchy woman rain. She's just picking at you. She's never going to let you go. When it's a wild storm that lasts 5 minutes and dies, what's it called? Borracho. It means your father came home and started kicking everything and said, who did the frickin' homework? Who didn't do the homework? And he falls asleep. That's a borracho. A tempesto is the same sort of lightning and thunder, except it lasts for 12 hours. That's a fight between your mother and your father. Better hide underneath the fucking bed and don't come out for a couple of hours, because nothing is good going to be gained by coming out and interrupting mom and dad when they're in the middle of that shit. What about when the rain starts and stops and it goes from left to right, right to left, and left to right? That's a juvia loca. That's a crazy 16-year-old girl. She doesn't know who she wants. She wants Johnny, she wants Bobby, she thinks he's cool, he's cool. You understand? This is a culture in which ayahuasca exists. Okay? My mother-in-law and my father-in-law hated each other. But they both went Tuesdays and Fridays for 50 years. Ayahuasqueros. 50 years. They also went to church on Sundays. They also had a cross, each one of them in front of their house. They were the richest family here until this government invented forfeiture and forfeited everything they owned. It took 40 boats, 2 tugboats, an island of 10,000 square hectares, 200 houses, 10,000 pigs, 20,000 cows away from them. Until that happened, they were the richest family. When that happened, they both ended up in Iquitos basically on the street. And they both put a cross in front of their house. And when I asked my mother-in-law, I said, finally, after like 3 years, Mom, what the frick are you doing? Of course, she said, it keeps the missionaries away. That's the context in which, so when you think of ayahuasca, and many of you are new here, many of you already know a lot of this stuff, but it's important to understand. If you fly in on a plane on Thursday and start drinking on Friday morning, you're missing a lot of the context. Ayahuasca doesn't exist outside of its context. On the river, on every river here, on every street here, in this neighborhood, certainly, every 200 yards there's an ayahuasquero who's holding ceremony Tuesdays and Fridays. I know 150, 200 of them, but I'll bet there's 2,000 I don't know. And they're holding ceremony every Tuesday and Friday. And they've got 20 or 30 or 40 people in their room. They've got problems. The problems are physical, mental, spiritual. And in the context of this world, ayahuasca, in the context of this world, problems on the physical level are seen as symptoms of problems on another level that expose themselves on the physical level. The simplest example I can give is somebody went to Julio, my teacher, years ago, and said, every time I sell my chickens, I break my leg. Who's giving me the evil eye? Here's a bunch of money. Tell me who's giving me the evil eye. Julio drinks ayahuasca and says, good news, bad news. Number one, nobody's giving you the evil eye. The guy says, why do I keep breaking my leg, hurting my ankle every time I sell my... He says, because you keep going to Herrera, you keep drinking, you get drunk when you sell your chickens, you have some money, you walk out of the bar with the broken step, you trip down the step, and you break your frickin' ankle. So, either fix the step or stop drinking. That's simple ayahuasca curing. That's the context in which this all happens. Okay? And I just, every year I speak here, and every year I try to tell big stories. I don't know how many big stories to tell this year. I just want you guys, you know, you're a small enough crowd, I want you to understand that none of this happens in a vacuum. There is no such thing as, well, we go to the ayahuasca center. I'm not going to say anything bad about the ayahuasca centers. Okay? They're probably great. But the context, really, is what happens on the river. Who is on the river? Who is curing people? When the baby pukes too much. When the baby's got diarrhea. You know? When grandma has frickin' hives. When somebody has a colon that's fucking loose. That's what the curandero does. And the curandero often isn't an ayahuasquero. If somebody's just an ayahuasquero, they're essentially useless in my book. What you need is somebody who understands plants. My teacher, Julio's daughter, Lottie, has taken my legs down 50% in 2 days from the infection I had yesterday by putting herbs on my legs 2 hours in the morning. Tomorrow they'll be